Breaking on Eyewitness News of 4, new video of the moment the sheriff of Osceola County was placed in handcuffs.
We have
cartel member arrests. These are high-level arrests, not low-level retail distribution.
the special agent in
These people want your money, and they don't care whether or not they take your life.
We revealed how LAX has become the drug trafficking hub of the world as
Full Los Angeles Police Department arrested in raid targeting Sinaloa drug empire. Los Angeles didn't just have a cartel problem, it had a police problem. In a raid that was supposed to shut down the Sinaloa drug empire, federal agents ended up arresting members of the LAPD itself, the very people sworn to protect the city they were helping poison. And now the question hanging over every badge in America is brutal and simple. If the cartel can buy the cops, who's left to defend the public?
The cartels are all suppressing methamphetamine tablets, and these look exactly like an Adderall pill.
fake pills, fentanyl sticks, methamphetamine.
Crystals, these are from Mexico.
These are just some of the 500 pounds of drugs seized in a federal crackdown on the Sinaloa cartel in New England.
It didn't feel like a raid. It felt like a betrayal unfolding in real time. Agents kicked in the door expecting cartel muscle, stash runners, maybe a trafficker trying to flush evidence. Instead, they found something worse. 2 of the men being ordered to the ground were wearing the same uniform as the officers giving the commands. Same badges, same shoulder patches, same department. The room went dead silent, because at that moment, everyone understood what this operation had just revealed. The Sinaloa cartel didn't infiltrate Los Angeles by force. It walked in through the front door, shook hands, and got a police escort. You could practically feel the air shift as the realization hit.
Down in New Hampshire netted dozens of arrests and $100,000. The DEA says all of this has put a major dent in the cartel's operations.
Is Massachusetts.
The city wasn't just dealing with a cartel, it was dealing with a cartel that had bought pieces of the institution meant to stop it. And that's the part nobody on the news wants to say out loud. It's not just drugs being smuggled, it's loyalty, it's authority, it's the trust the public places in the badge. So now, the question isn't how the Sinaloa cartel operated in Los Angeles. We know that. The real question, the one that should terrify every resident of this city, is how many more officers were on the payroll, how deep this goes, and whether the shield that's supposed to defend the public has already cracked from the inside.
Swollen with drugs, and we are now the marketplace for the world. From our streets, cartels are shipping it out, not just through LAX, but every other means possible, and making.
What happened in Los Angeles wasn't some isolated scandal. It was part of the largest federal cartel takedown in modern American history. Nearly 3,000 arrests nationwide, Sinaloa and CJNG operatives swept up from Phoenix to Chicago to the San Fernando Valley. And at first, the headlines sounded like victory. Fentanyl labs raided, stash houses emptied, safes cracked open, cash and weapons stacked on evidence tables. But the more the numbers came in, the uglier the pattern became. Because Los Angeles wasn't just a transit hub. It was a nerve center, a place where cartel logistics, street distribution, and law enforcement protection overlapped.
Are illegal narcotics slipping past security and getting shipped all over the globe? This enormous, chaotic place has become the cartel's global distribution center.
The Sinaloa cartel didn't survive this long because it was invisible. It survived because it was protected, because it had access, because it had relationships in places the public assumes are bulletproof. So when the feds rolled those arrest totals out on TV, people celebrated. But the agents who worked the case didn't celebrate. They stared at the data and realized something horrifying. If corruption reached this deep in Los Angeles, the city with the biggest police force on the West Coast, how many other departments were already compromised? This wasn't just an operation, it was a diagnosis. Los Angeles wasn't infiltrated by accident. It was targeted, and the system let it happen.
The cartels pour into the city. The more money they make, the more powerful they become.
Why LA?
This didn't happen overnight. The collapse in Los Angeles was the result of a slow, calculated infiltration that took years to detect. Federal analysts had been tracking Sinaloa traffic patterns long before the raid. Phone pings, freight records, burner devices, and encrypted chat activity tracing the exact same routes month after month. Then came the pattern break. 2 separate DEA surge operations, one in late August targeting Sinaloa networks across 23 U.S. field divisions, and another in late September targeting CJNG.
Los Angeles and the area around it is the #1 hub for drug activity in the country. Mexican cartels use the Los Angeles area to get drugs into the country and then distribute it throughout the country and also internationally.
When investigators compared the two waves, Los Angeles lit up both times. Same neighborhoods, same warehouse corridors, same drop locations. That's when alarms went off. It meant the cartel pipelines were overlapping and being protected. So investigators went silent. They stopped sharing leads with local units. They rerouted surveillance. They created a sealed circle of trust. The timeline wasn't just a series of raids. It was a test, a pressure test of the system. And Los Angeles failed, because every time federal pressure closed in, the cartel already knew. That kind of foresight doesn't come from luck. It comes from a badge on the inside. The only reason this operation worked is because Los Angeles law enforcement wasn't told it was happening. That's how deep the suspicion ran. Instead of routing intel through local task forces like usual, federal teams locked the case down under a multi-agency cross-border secrecy protocol. Partners in Mexico, Guatemala, and Spain froze cartel bank accounts the same hour DEA teams hit stash houses in LA. European financial monitors quietly seized wire transfers tied to shell companies registered in California. None of this was shared with LAPD, because the risk of a leak from inside the department was considered higher than the risk of tipping off the cartel itself.
Was smuggling methamphetamine through LAX to Japan. He was caught, and now he faces a very lengthy sentence. He told us he was going to get paid over $120,000.
Think about that. The United States trusted foreign intelligence more than its own police department. When the raids went live, corrupt officers had no warning because they weren't supposed to. The operation was built to smoke out exactly who would panic, call the wrong number, or try to disappear evidence. And when those calls lit up the monitors, that's how the arrests began. This wasn't just an investigation, it was a loyalty test. The numbers seized in Los Angeles weren't just large, they were apocalyptic. We're talking fentanyl in quantities measured not by weight, but by how many people it could kill. Agents counted enough pure powder to wipe out every resident in LA County several times over, along with cocaine stacks worth hundreds of millions and weapons meant to enforce silence. And when you translate that into reality, it stops being about drugs and starts being about lives that were seconds away from ending. Kids, parents, entire neighborhoods, one bad batch away from a mass casualty event. This is why the raid mattered. This is why the arrests weren't just another bust. Los Angeles wasn't on the verge of a crime wave. It was sitting on a mass poisoning event, and the killers were being shielded by officers who were supposed to stop it.
Osceola County was notified today at the sheriff's office that their sheriff has now been arrested.
Channel 9 was the
What changed the game was when the U.S. government officially labeled the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. That single move flipped the entire battlefield. Before, this was treated like organized crime. Raids, arrests, prosecutions, the usual cat and mouse. But once the Sinaloa cartel was classified as a terrorist entity, the rules shifted. Intelligence that was once off-limits suddenly became available. The Pentagon, Northern Command, and military surveillance networks could now legally support DEA and Homeland Security operations on U.S. soil. That means satellite tracking, signal interception, border heat mapping, the kind of tools normally reserved for hunting ISIS leaders in mountains were now pointed at cartel networks running through Los Angeles neighborhoods. And when those systems lit up and started mapping communication flow, one truth became undeniable. The leaks and the routing errors that were protecting cartel shipments were coming from inside the LAPD. The badge wasn't just compromised, it was operating as part of the supply chain.
are looking right now at the mugshot of the Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez, who is now suspended by Governor Ron DeSantis. It has been again a...
When the border locked down, the cartel didn't break. It adapted with something far more dangerous than smuggling routes: law enforcement insiders. For years, the U.S. believed more agents, more checkpoints, more patrols would starve the cartel's supply lines. But pressure doesn't stop organizations like Sinaloa. It forces them to evolve. So while helicopters patrolled the border and convoys rolled along the desert, the cartel made its smartest move yet. It stopped trying to outrun the law and started buying it. Los Angeles became the perfect pressure valve. Too big to monitor every officer, too busy to question every traffic stop, too politically chaotic to guard every unit. One cash drop here, one favor there, one sergeant who looks the other way, one detective who loses evidence. And suddenly the entire system thinks the border fight is working, when in reality the enemy was already standing inside the station, badge polished, uniform pressed, waiting for instructions. That's not corruption, that's strategic infiltration. The cartel didn't slip through cracks. It learned how to hold the door open.
Over and over and over on these domestic airlines from LAX, through suitcases, drugs was smuggled here. That's right, look at this.
Sinaloa didn't operate in Los Angeles by accident. The city is the endpoint of a designed logistics system. Sinaloa built the market, the demand, the street networks, the distributors. But CJ&G perfected the delivery route by locking down the ports. Shipments didn't come in through back roads. They came in through Long Beach, disguised as industrial solvents and cleaning compounds, straight off cargo ships from China and India. From the docks, the product moved into warehouse belts in Vernon Commerce and the Inland Empire, where it was processed, cut, stored, and routed into neighborhoods. That pipeline doesn't function unless someone on the inside keeps inspections light, paperwork clean, and questions quiet. The reason Los Angeles was so valuable to the cartel wasn't geography. It was access. Access to ports, access to trucking lanes, and most dangerously, access to the people who controlled them.
He arrested 3 women who had flown in from Los Angeles, each with them accused of hiding around 10 kilograms of the drug in clothing in their luggage.
According to
The breakthrough didn't come from raids, guns, or informants. It came from bank statements. FinCEN analysts noticed cartel money wasn't moving like street cash anymore. It was moving like investment capital, laundered through Los Angeles real estate flips, auto body shops, construction suppliers, nightclub partnerships, and crypto OTC desks in Koreatown. And when investigators backtracked the payments, they didn't lead to drug mules or gang captains. They led to LLCs owned by cops. Not duffel bags, not envelopes, invoices. The cartel didn't hand out bribes. It wrote contracts. It funded campaigns. It sponsored community programs. It paid pensions. The money didn't need to hide because it was disguised as legitimate business. And once you understand that, the corruption stops looking like a scandal and starts looking like a system.
30 Sheriff Marcos Lopez pulled up in that black Denali you see right there. He got out of this vehicle just before 10 o'clock. He went into the front door of this building. He was in there about 3 minutes before he was surrounded by those federal agents.
The proof wasn't theoretical. There were names, uniforms, and case files. A sheriff in Florida caught running protection for Sinaloa-linked gambling fronts. CBP officers at San Isidro paid to wave loaded cars straight through the gate. A border inspector in California taking nearly $500,000 in bribes to approve shipments without inspection. And in Los Angeles, officers tracked through phone logs and asset records to cartel handlers. Not rumors, not speculation, documented contact. These weren't rookies or desperate rookies. They were trained law enforcement who understood exactly what they were enabling. The cartel didn't guess at who to approach. It targeted officers with authority, placement, and clean reputations. That's how deep the breach went.
Strip in decades. The infrastructure's already in place. The drug dealers don't have to create the infrastructure. It's here.
The corruption in Los Angeles didn't look like a dirty envelope in a back alley. It looked like legitimate business. The cartel embedded itself through vendor contracts, real estate partnerships, campaign donations, police union sponsorships, and city development deals. So the money never appeared criminal. It appeared civic. And because police departments were expanding faster than they could vet their own, background checks loosened, internal affairs drowned in caseloads, oversight became paperwork instead of enforcement. The infiltration didn't just slip through, it walked in unchallenged. And that leaves the city staring at the most dangerous question of all. If the shield has been compromised from within, who's left standing between the public and the cartel now?